It is Open Line tonight. We are talking about Governor Lee's first State of the State address. We'd love to hear you chime in, your comments, your questions, anything you think is great about it or not so great about it. Go ahead and give us a call, 615-737-PLUS. I have Pat Nolan here with me, News Channel 5's political analyst. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
I know you love watching these speeches, and you have seen many of them over the years. Something that struck us both was the amount of time and attention Governor Lee is giving to criminal justice reform.
Yeah, he talked about it a good bit on the campaign trail because he's been personally involved in the Men of Valor program, which is one of the things he talked about tonight. This is a 17-page speech that I got a copy of tonight. He started talking about it on page 9. He didn't end until he was into page 13. Last year, I think Governor Haslam talked a little bit about it. There was a bill that was passed on juvenile justice reform, but he didn't talk about it for 4 pages. For it to go to go to almost 4 pages out of a 17-page speech certainly gives it, if it was a record, it would be #1 with a bullet right
And
now.
I do remember Governor Haslam saying in his exit interviews, and I think maybe in his speech, saying, you know, we have started this, but it needs to be continued.
It's one of those things that this particular issue has become big on the national level. Congress passed something about it. It's becoming a big deal all across the country, and I think this year this will give it a push to be a major issue coming up in this state. And I believe the legislature, this could be an area where there'll be some push and pull about it, because sometimes last time on the juvenile justice, not everybody was on board about some of the things they wanted to do, and I suspect there'll be some back and forth about that. But with the governor behind it, particularly now in his first year in the legislature, when he has a honeymoon period, I think he has a pretty good chance of getting a lot of this stuff at least strongly considered.
Let's push the pause button on this conversation. Let's go to Jennifer. She's on the line. Jennifer, thank you for calling in and getting us started tonight. What's your comment or question?
My question is this: they're talking about, prison reform. I'm just trying to see how that trickles down to like our county inmates that are in there that are doing like DOC time, because they're not getting the same privileges that the prison systems get, but yet they're being reformed, but they're sitting in there on 3- and 5-year sentences.
Yeah, that's a great comment.
I don't have the information about that. I would say that a lot of what he's focusing on is what to do to help these folks once they get out, to do the transition from when they're in jail to when they're coming out, so they have a good transition back, so they don't wind up coming out and then going right back in. Because that's really where the problem is. The recidivism of it is really what's really been hurting a lot of things. And that's probably not all that's involved here. I do think he did make a strong push to say if you've done violent crime, they're not going to let up on that and make it easy or go easy on people. But I think he did say that 95% of the people that go into prison are coming back out, and you better figure out what you're going to do to help those people when they come back out so they don't go back in.
And Jennifer, to your point, he said he's proposing an additional $10.5 million investment with a partnership with Tennessee Higher Education Commission, and that is to set up GED degrees in in prisons, and also some technical training, vocational training. But to your point, Jennifer, there are a lot of inmates who are Department of Corrections state level inmates who are sitting in county jails who would not, you would think, be able to take advantage of these programs.
He did say several times that jails were full and were having trouble making ends meet. So maybe that's an indication. I haven't looked in the legislation to see exactly how that addresses the problem in local jails, and particularly for those inmates who are serving there, if for some reason they're going to have an opportunity to get more good time in order to get out a little bit quicker, depending on what the sentencing guidelines are that they went to prison on, or went to jail on.
Jennifer, thank you for your call. I wish we had a better answer for you, but hopefully it is something that will be addressed from the folks who are experts in that. When it comes to criminal justice reform, the governor also said that he wants to spend $1.7 million in additional funding for recovery courts, and that's a big part of his focus when it comes to the reform. And also that he wants to eliminate the $100 state expungement fee, so that people who are eligible for that can clean their records. He says that is a way for them to get a job and also stable housing.
Yeah, and when you first come out, $100 is a lot of money.
It is.
And to spend $100 on just that fee may keep you from being able to get that job, and if you can't get the job, then you're right back in a situation where you got to do something to live.
Or you have that crime on your record. A lot of folks just won't hire you.
And if you can't get it off your record, and you can't get hired, you're going to be tempted to go back and do things that you did before, which may not be good.
Exactly. Let's go to Hank now. He has called in. Oops, I'm sorry. Oh, hi, Hank. I did push the right button. Hank, you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
listen, I've got a question for both y'all, and I don't know whether it was me or what, but in 73 years, I heard the best State of the State message I ever heard from a governor. But behind him was a Quesada, and I was constantly being distracted by his antics and his almost childlike facial inflections he was making. So I was wondering if y'all observed that, or if it was just me, and I'm going to hang up and listen to your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Hank. I'm going to let you answer that because I didn't actually get to see it. I've read the speech, but I didn't get to see it because I was doing the news.
I did watch good portions of the speech. Maybe it was the camera angle that I had, although I think I had the pool camera angle, so I think what I saw, everybody else saw. I didn't particularly notice that. It didn't appear to me he was in camera all the time. It's not like the State of the Union where Speaker of the House and the Vice President are right behind him, and you can't miss them. If they twitch their nose or anything happens, it's going to be. We already saw about the Nancy Pelosi handshake.
Yes.
But I didn't see that. I maybe have to go back and look and see that. I'd be interested to see. Certainly, Speaker Quesada has had a tough situation. I should say Quesada. That's the way he pronounces his name. But he's had a tough couple of weeks in terms of controversy with what's going on with Representative Byrd, what's been going on with the new issue that's continued to, well, it's not a new, it's an old issue, kind of come back up again with the Nathan Bedford Forrest statue and what to do about that. None of those were issues that came up in the speech tonight, of course, but I'll have to go back and see what happened, and I'd be interested to know if somebody else calls about it, what they found childish about what he did.
And as far as Hank's
take on, I would also point out, this is the first time he's been in this situation, so perhaps he didn't realize his facial expressions were going to be all over the state the way they are.
Yes, and Hank's assessment, he said it's the best speech that he's seen in 73 years. What was your takeaway, just from your feel of it? I thought,
well, in terms of maybe. I'm sure there have been years when there have been investments made in a lot of these same programs before, but I did feel like it was a new start, a different start, not to take anything away from what happened in the 8 years that Bill Haslam was there, but I did feel like there was an investment in things that had not been invested in before, or at least not for a while. So I suspect it's going to get a good response, not just by the lawmakers up there, but across the state. Bill Lee has sort of come out of nowhere. No, he's a political unknown to a large degree.
Yeah, back in the primary, nobody was really counting on him.
No, I mean, until there was an implosion of the two candidates that everybody thought was in front of him, nobody thought he had much of a chance. He does come across as a very earnest, a very likable guy, and a lot of the things he talked about on his campaign, he's now talking about in his speech. So there's no, I talked about one thing on the campaign trail and I went to become governor, and I talked about something totally different. He's talking about what he talked about before, and he's got a very conservative, Christian outlook on a lot of these things, and some people are a little nervous about that, but I think tonight some of the things he's invested in, particularly things like criminal justice reform, might make them feel a little bit better. So I don't think he did anything tonight to hurt his honeymoon situation. In fact, he probably helped it.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Oh, heck. Okay, here we go. I think we have Lucy here. Lucy, are you with me?
Hey, y'all.
Hi, Lucy. Go ahead.
Well, I want to respond to your first caller about Quesada.
Quesada.
Quesada, yeah.
Quesada?
Yes, ma'am,
okay.
Quesada.
I've never called him Quesada until tonight.
No, you get it in your head.
Anyway, Quesada, yeah, I think he acted like a fifth grader, but I miss Beth Harwell because she had a little bit more maturity. Let me rephrase that. She had a lot more maturity. I like how she was as a speaker. She seemed like she was in control and she was secure. But I've got a question for you, Mr. Nolan, about the vouchers. I thought that a lot of people in the rural areas were going to be upset about that because of their funds being cut from their public education. I'll hang up and take your comments off as long as you have any about this.
Before you hang up, let me ask you a question. What was it about Speaker Quesada that you didn't like about him acting like a fifth grader? Was there something in his facial expressions that bothered you?
Yes, he just doesn't seem to have self-control, and I've seen him do this with the press and other people, and I think he forgets sometimes that he's up there representing us as a state, and this can go nationwide instead of being part of a fraternity. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am. I didn't see it. I can't say that I saw that, but was he making faces or something? What was he doing?
He just does stuff. I can't explain it to him. You know, I can't get used to it. I just can't get used to it.
We'll have to go back and watch this.
I've seen him on the floor, and he kind of gets riled up, and you know, maybe he thinks that's gamemanship and now he just can't control it or something. Maybe he has a medical condition. I don't know. Let me shut up. It's getting worse.
Okay.
Could you say something about those vouchers and
Yes,
is this
ma'am.
going to have an impact people feel on rural education? I'll hang up now, Mr. Nolan, now that I've ruined your reputation for taking my call.
No, it's okay.
Thank you, Lucy.
He did say, and I'm going to read from the speech, the ESAs, which is the Education Savings Account, will enable low-income students from the most underperforming school districts in the state, and almost all of those are in Memphis and Nashville, to make sure they can attend an independent school of their choice at no cost to their family. He said, I know there's concern that programs like this will take monies away from the public schools, but my plan will invest at least $25 million new dollars in public schools in the first year to fill any gap when a student transfers to another school. So it seems to me like, much like Governor Haslam's, it's being targeted, the voucher program is being targeted primarily to underperforming schools. That's not all schools across the state, and it's probably not that many in the rural areas. So you're correct. A lot of the rural school boards are expressing concern. Some have even gone on record about it, even though they're in Republican parts of the state, and the Republicans are more likely to be in charge of, in favor of vouchers nationwide. But I think that it's not likely to happen there. But the question is, will they still trust it enough to get it started? Yes. Because if people perceive it works there, it's eventually going to go to there. And a lot of them are worried that what will happen is it'll actually fund the creation of private schools in their counties that will be in competition. And the governor says competition's a good thing. I think they're going to have to be convinced. Right,
and I mentioned it earlier, the TEA mainly is arguing against ESAs because they say the system is wrought with fraud. But when it comes to the charter schools, let me just read from the statement from the TEA. It says, the TEA also has deep concerns about massive funding for education. Oops, that's the wrong article. Sorry, let me go back to this paragraph. Okay, we have concerns about Lee's proposal to increase funding for charter schools and pave the way for rapid charter school expansion. Charter schools are proven to destabilize public school budgets and damage existing classrooms where there is rapid expansion. Charter schools need to be a local decision because local taxpayers bear a majority of the cost, and it goes on.
Well, yeah, I think the kind of money he's talking about doing is not necessarily to fund the charter school, but for facility funding, for actually help them, I believe, acquire a facility to do that. Now, we already know what a huge controversy there's been about charter schools
just
in
here
Nashville.
in Davidson County.
And I suspect that his bill that will make it easier to open charter schools and easier to close bad ones will be, the proof will be in the pudding. He didn't give a lot of details about that tonight, but trust me, a lot of lawmakers are going to be looking at that, particularly out of the Davidson delegation. Of course, the Davidson delegation is almost all Democratic. It's completely Democratic in the House. The Democrats don't have a lot of votes. They don't have enough votes to make a difference. So if the Republicans are united on this, they can pass vouchers, but they've had a problem with that, even with that large a majority, being able to pass it in the House. They've been able to pass it in the Senate, but not the House, and you got to have both houses to make anything happen.
What's happening right now on the Hill after this speech? What's it like there?
Well, there's a lot of reporters running around asking for people's comments and what they think about it, and they're talking about it. You know, it's usually one of those festive nights, much like the State of the Union is, and you didn't see in Tennessee what you see a lot in the nation's capital, where the Democrats sit on one side or on the other, and you see
the division.
One side stands up, the other side doesn't. It seemed to me that he got a number of rounds of applause, some were standing ovations, and I didn't see, maybe you could sort of gauge a little bit of difference in how long and how loud the applause was. One thing that was going on during some of it, and it may have been in part during some of these things about the education savings accounts, somebody brought a cowbell up there tonight, and I could hear a cowbell ringing. I didn't hear it on all the ovations, but I heard it.
Well, that's interesting.
So I guess the governor got more cowbell tonight.
I guess more cowbell. Okay, on that note, we are going to take a quick commercial break. We would love to hear more of your comments and questions coming up right after this. 615-737+ is the number to call.